Now, I want to turn my attention again to an issue that we do discuss quite a bit on this show. I find it really interesting. I think it is so important. It kind of drives everything. And that is the issue of population, but not necessarily in the big cities. Let's talk about regional areas and in New South Wales, regional cities, because there's news out today or a release about this. And in fact, what we're looking for here, or what the group that's put this forward is looking for, is some planning from government so that we get this right. Interesting to note that according to the ABS, over the 10-year period, roughly 2011 to 2022, regional New South Wales population grew by 224,500. And as they say, that's the equivalent of creating a regional city the size of Bathurst every 2 years. I want to have a chat here with Mathew Dickerson, Councillor Mathew Dickerson, who's chair of the Regional Cities New South Wales group, and he's the current mayor of Dubbo, I have to tell you, the regional council there, and he's on the line. Hello, Matthew.
Yeah, good morning, Luke. Thanks for chatting to me.
Not at all. Nice to talk to you. You know, when you put it as plainly as you do in your release today, that according to these numbers from the ABS, we're creating a Bathurst every couple of years, that's not something you do in a hodgepodge fashion. It does require some planning.
It does require planning. And the other thing I think that's significant is regional cities. The group that we've got there represents 15 cities across New South Wales, and that's over 1 million people. So you start to look at that in comparison to Sydney, for example, and it's not insignificant. And the roles and the purpose of those 15 cities is quite significant in the whole scheme of things. So we want really from government a whole range of different things, but what we're talking about specifically with this one is really about a regional jobs platform. We've actually got about 1% lower unemployment on average across those 15 cities. That's compared to the state average of unemployment. So that means we've got employers who are screaming out for people to come and move to these regional cities. We're almost inhibiting some of the growth in those businesses in some of those regional cities because we need more people to fill some of those roles. And I think the thing is that some people in Sydney, some people in metropolitan areas just don't really know about that. And that's really where we're focused on with this campaign is there's money there in the state budget that could be used for a program. We've got the program ready to go. We just need to marry the two together.
Yeah. So we've got the campaign underway, the state campaign. Have you had any joy from either the government or the now opposition going into this poll as to where they sit with this debate?
Well, certainly they've got words, Luke, that say we're very supportive of growth in regional cities. They've got words that say it's really important for the state, for regional cities to be strong. But I normally like to see some words backed up with a bit of action. And in this case, action equals dollars. And if I go back a little way, we had a group called Evo Cities way back in 2010 that started. And that started with 7 cities. And we got some funding from the federal government, we got some funding from the state government, and councils put money in towards that. And that campaign worked really well, and we had really clear outcomes from the money that was put in to advertising to the outcomes we achieved. That's grown now from those 7 cities, it's grown up to 15 cities because obviously those other cities saw there was value in all of us getting together and working together. But the state government money seemed to have dried up now, and we're really relying on just the council money, and we just don't have enough money to really get the cut through in the Sydney metro market that we need to. Yeah,
of course. Well, what about we often hear from government of projections where they see the population ending up, in a year or 5 or 10 or whatever. Are the modelling or the forecasting, has it kept pace with reality?
We've actually seen some really major issues there. That's one of our other asks from both the government at the moment and the opposition, is to look at the Department of Planning, because typically the Department of Planning has growth rates for regional cities, and it varies from city to city, but I'm just talking in general terms about the 15 cities here. They might have growth rates of 0.5%, 0.6%, 0.7%, and we've seen growth rates typically of 1.4, 1.5, even up to 2% in some of those regional cities. So it means that the planning from a government perspective in terms of schools or policing numbers or health services are completely inadequate, And then it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. When there aren't enough schools and hospitals and police in an area, someone that might be looking to move to an area says, well, I'm not going to move there because I can't get my kids in a school. And then the Department of Planning says, see, we got it right. No one wanted to move there.
Yeah. Gotcha. That's ridiculous, isn't it? Well, what do you need for businesses and people that might, want to pursue a career in a regional city? Is this funding typically to assist them to get there? Is it to assist local councils to develop infrastructure? What does it do?
Well, this funding in particular that we're talking about is really just to let people know. It's about education. It's about running campaigns to tell people what's out here. At the moment, there are 80,000 advertised roles in regional job vacancies. Now, most people don't know about those 80,000 jobs. They're not aware of all those jobs that are available. And part of the whole campaign that we've put together, the Regional Jobs Platform, would allow someone in a metropolitan area that was thinking about some change. They might be finding housing too expensive, the commute might be too long, they're raising a family and can't afford that larger house, for example. They could actually go onto the platform, which doesn't exist at the moment, but we want to create it, and actually put their skills in and see where those particular skills might be needed. So they might have certain skills and then they'll put those skills in and it might pop up 4 or 5 of those different cities and then they can investigate those a bit further. We're pretty confident that most skills people have got that want to transfer away from Sydney, there'll be one of, or probably many of those 15 cities that have got the skills that are required there. And then it's really just a matter of them having a look, choosing where they go. And we have the boosted population that we need in regional cities and solving some of these population problems we've got. But I think we're also doing a favour to the state government because there's so much pressure on Sydney infrastructure in particular.
Correct.
With the sprawl of the population. We see all the money spent on tunnels and transport and trams and trains that don't work. So all of these problems that we've seen with the state government, we think we can solve some of those for them. Yeah,
gee, that's a good point. Answer me this if you can, Matthew. I'm speaking to Councillor Mathew Dickerson, who is the Mayor of the Dubbo Regional Council and heads Regional Cities New South Wales. Is there evidence in your local community or those other communities where people have decided, I can work from home now, so I don't need to live in Sydney, I'm going to live somewhere where I really want to live, where I get a quality of a life I can't get in a big city? Have you got evidence of that?
Absolutely right. What people started to realise, in particular during the pandemic, was that if they could work from home, then if that home was in Parramatta or Penrith or Orange or Bathurst or Dubbo, they could do the same job. All of these regional cities have got good NBN and internet infrastructure. They've all got the ability for people to sit at home and obviously live in a house that might be half the price or less of the median house price in Sydney, cleaner air to breathe, a much nicer environment. But during the pandemic, we saw a significant increase in people moving out of metropolitan Sydney, metropolitan areas, into these regional cities because, exactly as you said, they realised they could actually do it.
Yeah. Well, this makes so much sense to me. I mean, we've come through the pandemic, we've come through we're in the middle of skills shortage, and you ask yourself the question: how is it possible in a country like this to have an education system and it not marrying up with the needs of employers? I simply don't understand that, but this is another example of that. We've got regional areas, we've got jobs available. Why don't we marry up those places with those in the city who might want to move or might even just arrive in Australia and consider one of those places an ideal place to set up? It just makes complete sense. Gee, I hope they're listening, Mr. Perrottet and Mr. Menz.
On that, Luke, I think there's a really important point you make there. When people move from overseas as well, they often see Australia or Sydney as the Opera House and the Harbour Bridge, and they don't realise what opportunities are outside metropolitan Sydney. So we find that we've got welcoming mums and happy to have people from anywhere in the world. You find that in regional cities, generally, people that are born overseas, you're getting normally up around 19-20% of the population were born overseas. So we're certainly welcoming in regional cities to people wherever they come from. If they want to have a great lifestyle, then we say come along and be part of our community. So some of those people that you're talking about that have come from overseas and land in Sydney think that that's where they've got to be, or they don't understand there is an option.
Yeah, good stuff. Regional Cities New South Wales, it's an alliance of 15 regional cities from across the state, Councillor Mathew Dickerson, who's chair of that group and current mayor of Dubbo Regional Council. Good to talk to you, Matthew. I hope they're listening. All the best.
Absolutely right. I'm sure they do listen to 2GB, so thank you.
Good on you, Mathew Dickerson.